Hi, welcome everyone, and thank you for Eden for another episode of In Conversation With. And today's topic, the background I would like to share with everyone is a time for us to give thanks to the baby boomers of Singapore, people who have actually built Singapore from brick and mortar. Each brick is so important to make a house firm and stable, and people could stay in there. There's a Chinese saying that your forefathers, they are the one who plow the land. It is the other second generation who actually enjoy the shade. So I thought it's time for us to reflect in 2020 about the generation of baby boomers in Singapore who has actually helped to build the Singapore as it is now, even though we are in the crossroads of a lot of challenges. We don't know how the world is going to be in the larger context, the global economy. We don't know. However, we must not forget people who have walked that fire, people who did not want the glory, but people who just worked hard because they have been called for. People who wanted to do more than their KPIs because they just wanted to do it well, do a job well, and they should be given that pat on the back. It could be a teacher, it could be a principal, it could be a janitor, it could be your dad, it could be your mom, it could be your grandfather. So today I would like to thank Eden again. He has helped to build the tertiary education scene in Singapore, for being the founding father of NYP and RP and then ITE. He's my principal. So with that, thank you, Eden. And I wanted to share with everyone, being a baby boomer here, and you had a major contribution to nation building in this aspect of Singapore, in various aspects. Is there something you think was worthwhile to think back and that made a difference in your life? And is there something more that you would like to do or less you would like to do of?
I was involved in education since in the mid-80s, where I joined the Economic Development Board, and we were in the Manpower Development Division. And strangely, EDB then had about 600 staff. 300 staff are actually doing training. We have a lot of institute, French, which we collaborate with French government, German government, Japanese government, and with companies like Brown Boveri, Philips. Our main purpose was to quickly build enough technical workforces for the Singapore. Then after that, I subsequently went to Nanyang Poly again. I think founding father sounds a bit impressive. Actually, I was there just to work with the School of Health Sciences and start the School of Health Sciences. Then nursing training was done in the Ministry of Health, and then it was moved into poly education under Nanyang Poly. And then subsequently, when Republic Poly was started, I was also involved, being the first person to be hired. Well, I was the first person, first employee, and then my principal was seconded, so he didn't have the honor of being the first employee, but I was, and then we started building up the team out there in Republic Poly. That time, I did mention to Vicky that it was great opportunities for us because we are building things from scratch. We are not fixing things or changing things, but because we start from scratch, we can do a lot of things that can be different. So I'm very happy that I had that opportunities. But in my last job at ITE was then built up. Of course, it was also transformed from a VITP situation to its current 3 colleges, 3 centralized colleges, and I took over the College East principalship. When I took over ITE, I suddenly realized, and that was in the from 2010 to about 2015. I was the principal there. And I suddenly realized that there's a big gap between the one I would call the people who are well endowed and those who are less endowed. You know, those who move on from Raffles Junior College or NJC to university, and those who comes under ITE. That comes to the point that I tried very hard to see how can we as a society level up those people who are left further down in the academic ladder. You know, students who don't do as well in N-level, O-levels, they wanted to go to poly, they even wanted to go JC but couldn't get in, and they end up IT, very disappointed. And there are lots of issues of motivation, whether they are the curriculum suitable for them, and so on and so forth. So I tried to do as much as I can, and I think in 5 years, my regret is that I didn't do enough. I think if I've put in more effort or more energy, I might be able to do an even better job that can really level up, you know, these people, or give them what you earlier said, give them the confidence for themselves that they can grow into as good as a person who got that scholarship to university, overseas university, president scholar, and so on and so forth.
And I like particularly the life skills. And you know that Singapore or the world has come to such a competitive place.
Correct.
All the countries are catching up, and even Africa is fast catching up with Asia. The economies are all transforming. You know, for the people of today, the generation of today who's going to go out there to find a piece of their future, a job or getting a career, it gets so much more competitive. And just teaching them a core competence is not enough anymore. And the thing about life skills come in, and there's something that ITE has, and that is something that probably Singapore is moving towards, like having that survival skill and that thriving in the midst of competition. And I really like that life skill thing that you have that in ITE.
I think my thoughts about our education is that we are very focused on maths, science, which is important, and come to IT, vocational skill. But the real people would have noticed that the real challenge is, or one of the things that I've been telling my life skill colleague when I was in ITE was, no, it's not an issue of, you know, speaking Queen's English, because we know that for the last 10 years the essays didn't live up to the mark, you know, they couldn't even pass English at whatever level. But more important is that they must pretend, because I don't think that in 10 years they couldn't understand English or they cannot speak English, but they do not have the confidence to speak English. I mean, I've spoken to German, Swiss, the Europeans. They are very confident in speaking English, and that's not their first language, could be a second and even a third language. But when you deal with them in English, they are willing to speak up and they can express themselves very confidently. So to a person who have, for a young person who have gone through 10 years of primary, secondary school education, that English is sufficient. Now our big challenge is how do we get them to feel confident enough to use that English. I mean, and that's one aspect of the life skill that we want. And the other aspect, of course, is how do you be more confident to be able to present yourself? How do you deal with some financial issue and things like that? I had the same. I volunteered at the SAF detention barrack. You know, quite of these youth who are in national service, due to drug or AWOL or whatever, ended up in detention barracks. So we also give them a life skill kind of program. And again, similarly, I can see that here is an opportunity young people who feel that they are mostly who didn't do academically well, that's why they got into trouble. How can we help them? To me, to be let's say be a better carpenter, my 2 years training can only give you a start. But as you get into the profession, you will be a better carpenter. But can you present that table or chair in a way that is, that allows you to market it better? It's very important. I mean, I've seen. I've been to some nice restaurant, private parties, and you have this Ang Mo guy, Western guy who comes out and tell you about how he cooked this, how he prepared that, and things like that. It's all about presentation in today's climate, So if you can help our young people to feel confident enough that this form of presentation can, add value to their, the food that they have prepared, even if it's not the best, but by being able to speak up and present themselves, that's so important. And that's so lacking in Singapore education.
And especially now that Singapore is probably moving towards not only just literacy teaching.
Yes.
The Ministry of Education has said that it's not sufficient, and sometimes you do not need a degree to excel, and it's probably hard to accept, because us being, for all these years, we have been drilled into us meritocracy and paper qualification. But you look at Google and Amazon, they're saying that, hey, even in America, they're not looking at college degrees. They're not looking at qualification at all. They look at something else. They look at innovative ideas, people who are able to come up with new things. So that could be something. What advice would you give to educators at large, if they were to bring into a classroom, besides being confident in speaking English, etc.? What kind of spirit, what kind of mindset do you think an educator walking into a class should be able to impart in this generation?
First of all, in Republic Poly, that was in the early 2002, and the IT facilities weren't that good, and but we went ahead and said, okay, we want a campus that is wireless, connected, and so on and so forth. I mean, of course, today in the 2020s, this is a given. But we said to ourselves, we want to build that kind of campus because we realize that every student that leaves the campus must be connected to the world through the IT. Every student, in fact, we went around to the other poly, they say they have a laptop program or things like that, but we said, look, let's be serious. You want them to have a laptop, but that's not good enough. You want them to use the laptop. So we force every student to bring the laptop, they have to submit all their papers. So I
can say you're one of the visionaries too.
Oh, no. But you see, the purpose is that if our concern is really the guy who's staying in a one-room flat or rental flat, they don't have the laptop. Because I told my colleagues that, look, I mean, I have no problem with my children, because my children have 2-3 laptops, or 2-3 computers at home. But our concern is those who are not connected. And we got to force the situation where every student, every 800 first batch of students, every 15,000 students or 12,000 students that step into that poly will be fully equipped. So in that example, we are saying, of course, you can't equip them, you just give them a laptop, but you yourself as the teacher, you got to set the example. So setting an example, I think, is one of the most important things. So that means you must be prepared to go through the trouble to learn and be prepared to use the machine. In fact, we recently I just posted on Facebook, we refused to let them have a phone on their desk because we wanted to, at the time we were thinking of hot desking and things like that.
Yeah.
And we said telephone is one of the things that tie you to a desk because, so we use what we call wireless telephony and things like that. But you got to experiment things. So as an educator, I think one of the important things that you got to experiment. And in a way, you got to set the example to the young people. Technology is important. Innovation is important. Try things.
And for a large part of your life, you have been building things, and you are an engineer by training.
Yeah.
So an engineer is one who solves other people's problems, right? Isn't
yeah,
it?
in some
Building
sense,
the
yeah,
bridges, building the buildings,
Ah.
building solutions,
Yeah.
finding solutions when there are problems. So in a way, going to an educational sector, you are building people.
Yeah.
Building the buildings in order to build people.
Yeah.
It's an engineering process.
Yeah.
And for people who are now tuning in to watch this, we're with Liew, and you have been a major, you have got this major contribution in this sectors that you were tasked to actually build, like an engineer, just build people, schools, structures, visions, and to deliver them. So you must have put in your soul, your spirit, your time, and your life. Have you sacrificed your personal life in a pursuit of building things for Singapore and for a better generation?
I don't think I've done more. I mean, in the office, of course, if you are given the job of director administration, you try to build up the system that can support the teachers or support the hospital, whatever it is. I don't think of course we should be as dedicated as possible in that area, but I mean, we spend 8, 10, 12 hours sometimes. I don't think we have sacrificed more as compared to, say, another person who also spent 8 hours in office. And
but during your time, there probably wasn't work-life balance, right?
I don't think there were. I don't know about the future, but I don't think there's such thing as. Not say there's such thing as work-life balance. I mean, ultimately, each of us will be committed to our so-called office or where we are employed, and it's important because that brings food to your family and things like that. I mean, it has to happen, so I don't see this work-life balance as not say as a major issue. Of course, we shouldn't we should still spend time with the children, but yeah.
So can I say that for me, I see the generation of the baby boomers of Singapore has laid this very strong foundation,
Right.
the groundwork that is like the pillar of a huge building that goes deep down to the ground where people can't see. There's a saying about the bamboo.
Yeah.
The Chinese bamboo tree. You've got to. It takes 5 years to water the plant, and you don't see it breaking through the ground for 5 years. But on the 5th year, then you will start to see it grow and it shoots up. So I would say that the baby boomers of Singapore is like the Chinese bamboo trees, like really laying the groundwork, but people do not see how deep and strong it goes into the ground. And people like herself who has given so much and never given it a thought about work-life balance, which I think for people now in this generation, it's like a mantra. They need to go back 9 to 5 and don't touch me after a particular time. But I thought that it was your generation or that generation that really are the Chinese bamboo trees that really like work the ground for years and years and years to make the foundation strong and fertile for the next generations who's enjoying the shade. So is there anything like in your life that you could have done for yourself or for your family that you think back?
Of course, I mean, for myself, I don't think I had been fortunate. I enjoy my work. My family has been well covered. 4 children and 4 of them are working, so and live what I call a decent life. They are not thieves, they are not robbers, and things like that.
Such a humble dad.
I think that solves the issue lah. I mean, they are not
Such
on
a
drugs.
humble
Fortunately, they are not on drugs or any other vices lah. So that's good enough. Of course, I would have liked to spend more time with the children, and travel more frequently than what I've seen many families that have traveled more frequently. But I don't think there's a loss. Like I said, the children have grown up decent people. I think that's the important part. So that's the only regret. But as long as you put time, whatever time that's not involved. One of the things that in my career was that I said to people who say, "Oh, you need to take golfing, because that helps you in your career." I said, "Oh, can I? 5.5 in those days, 5.5 days, and sometimes in the evening and so on and so forth. And take one more day for golfing, and then I think it's crazy. So if you have work-life balance, that means you work less and golf more. I don't know whether that's the solution for your family.
And I would think that a person like herself is a role model for the generation who are workers now. Worker as in anyone who's taking a salary is a worker. Right? Even a prime minister is a worker, is working for the people as long as he takes a salary. Even the chairman or the owner of a public listed company, they're also being paid, right? They're working for the shareholders. So all of us are workers in a way. And for someone like you, I would say that you have worked, or this generation of yours, the baby boomers, have worked because you put in your soul to see that the vision is delivered and not wanting it to being half-baked. And I think this is the challenge for the younger generation who just wants to draw a salary. And I'm not saying that's bad, because you need to bring bread to the family. For the next phase of nation building for any country, be it Africa, be it Vietnam, be it a third world country, be it any country, or be it a company for that matter, that the spirit of really total commitment to a vision, and that the promise that you make that you want to deliver the goods, even in an indirect kind of way, like it's the promise, but being given that the task is a promise that you want to deliver. And I think that makes a difference between a great leader who sees things and wants it to be delivered, as opposed to a worker who just, hey, I just want to take my salary, and then if it doesn't work out, probably I'm just going to quit on Saturday. What do you think of these two schools of thought?
I don't know whether I will agree with you that the millennials are slightly different from us. Sometimes I do sense, I mean, now that I'm working in the church, I work with some of these younger people. I do sense that that some of them are even less concerned about salaries, and they are prepared to do work that are what we call socially more more concern for the society. So, but it's just a question of different opportunities presents itself in different time. My time, we got a chance to build, well, in a way, build buildings, build institutions, change things from this to that. I think the younger generations or the current generations may have other opportunities. So if you read newspaper, they go into social enterprise, you know, and do things that my generation couldn't consider, because we were just, you know, looking for a way to
You were trying to build the economy.
build the economy. We are in a way, we are not as well off as them, because some of them, in a way, because of the, not say wealth, but the ability, the parents were much better off. Because my father was a simple clerk in the shipping company, and you know, I don't think I would get a lot of support from him. But here, for the young people, I noticed that, oh, they want to quit, they change the job, they want to go studies, you know. I think there are much more support given. But I think as individuals, whether it's past generation, current generation, all of them there will be many who will have a conscience for the society. Of course, there will be the baddies, you know, and in my time, we have gangsters who you know, wheel parangs and run around, you know, doing bad things. I mean, it's the same. Every society will have that.
And with that, actually, I do personally want to give thanks to yourself, the generation. And I was saying off the record before, off the mic, at that time, is like, it is a generation that gives, not wanting to take, but yet setting that standard by themselves in a way that is as high as possible that imagination could take them. And that's why Singapore, it is what it is now. I've got foreign friends who say that, hey, you don't know that you're living on paradise. And we have forgotten there are a lot of things that we could give thanks for every morning as we wake up. And even as even as we travel, even in very developed countries, you know, I think Singapore has, I should say that being just living in Singapore, a lot of infrastructure wise, has given convenience to a lot of people. That is something that we can't take away, because something that you can see, it's concrete. So for that, I think your generation deserves the gratitude of the generation that comes after. So thank you so much, Edie. Is there anything you would like to share about giving advice to your younger self? A couple of advice?
To my younger self?
Yes.
If I ever started. I have I mean, there were occasions, I mean, I have changed job. I was very lucky, and each time at the, not say end of the career, at the end of one stint with one organization, another opportunity came around, you know, or that new opportunity sort of ended my current stint of that of the first organization. So I'm lucky. I've great opportunities as compared to many people, and I enjoyed the career. Sometimes during those times when it was difficult, especially starting a new organization, if I've seen what I've seen now, I would have told the younger person, don't worry, just go on, get whatever you need. Do whatever you need to do and try your best. But of course, when you are in that deep end with no solution, there's always a struggle.
Yes.
So I think for all the young people out there, or people who are working, there will always be trouble. I was just sharing with some of my colleagues here, there's always night, there's always evening. I remember in the Bible, 6 days, there is always evening. 6 days there was evening and there was morning. And such a wonderful thought that there's always morning.
There's always another chance again. So with that thought, we'd like to thank you again. Thank you for being on In Conversation With. We hope with these videos you can add on to the positive energy of the social media, and that people who are viewing this will get some positive thoughts out of this from Mr. Liew. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you.